right up. I want to welcome everybody to the K County chapter of the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association. We're the United States' most effective liberty group. We fight for the entire Constitution, but we concentrate on the Second Amendment because that is the keystone at the top of the Roman arch of our Constitution. That's the only thing in the Constitution that gives it teeth. So that's why, in my opinion, it's the most important part of the Constitution, and that's why we concentrate on that. But we are vehement about the entire Constitution as written, as it's written. First off, Pastor Jack isn't here today. Is there someone here who would like to lead us in prayer? Ed?
Sure.
Ed, if you would, please.
Sure. Let's bow. Lord, we thank you so much for this ability to meet together in peace and to give you honor and glory for creating this country where we have the freedom of speech, the freedom to bear arms, the freedom to walk from one part of this country to the other without any hesitation whatsoever. These freedoms that we enjoy so much, Lord, we don't see in the rest of the world. We thank you, Lord, for this peaceful assembly. We ask that you give us wisdom, guide us in what we say and do. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ed. I'm going to turn the meeting over to the boss and our star here in just a little bit, but first off, I want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have the flag here. If you'll join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. At the back, it's my sister and my brother-in-law, Shelley and Peter Nikolich, and they're manning the... Those of you that don't know them, they moved here a year and a half ago from Phoenix. They came to visit me in Tonkawa for 2 days. I talked them into staying in 5. That was in August. They closed on a house in Tonkawa the following January. And they are glad they're out of the Phoenix area. As we all need to realize how fortunate and blessed we are to live in K County and out of the craziness. Anyway, we have sign-ups back there to join OK2A. I've got some nice pens. Anybody that joins today gets a pen. Also, I've got a $25 gift coupon for Salt Fork Armory for gunsmithing or gun cleaning. Anybody that joins today gets that. And if you join at the $25 level, basically you're getting your membership for free. We also have sign-ups for the Ponca City Rifle and Pistol Club. We work in close conjunction with them. It is hands down the best range in north central Oklahoma. If you haven't checked it out, you need to. And if you join there today, we're having a picnic at the shooting range tomorrow. So if you join today, the Ponca City Rifle and Pistol, you can come to the picnic tomorrow and bring your family. I'd like to introduce Wayne and Kathy Hill. Wayne is our state coordinator. He's my boss, and that is his boss, sitting next to him. And just the most gracious people you can meet. They live over in Skytook, and I wouldn't even want to guess how many miles a year Wayne is driving, covering, and setting up and helping all of us coordinators in these county locations. If you know anybody in any county that doesn't have one of our chapters, he's the guy to talk to. If you might be interested in doing it when you're not in K County, we want chapters in all 77 counties. That's the goal. I'd like to also introduce Ed Kasser. Those of you that were here last month may remember him. He's my 40-year-something friend from Denver who is buying a house, closing on it Monday, as a bug-out location in K County, so he and his family have a place to run to if they have to flee Denver. That's how bad it is in the cities, folks. That is how bad it is. The day I talked to Ed about the house, I'm selling the house, I got a call that afternoon from someone in Omaha, same scenario, except they're from Tonkawa. Ed had never even been to K County before he bought a house here. That's how bad it is in Denver. Same situation in Omaha. They looked at the house. I told them it was sold, but they wanted to see it. His wife told me they live 5 miles from downtown Omaha, and they hear gunfire in their home every night. Imagine living like that, folks. You're in your home with your kids and your family, and you can hear gunfire every night. That's what's going on in America, and that's what we have to stop. Let's see. Okay. I want to tell you all about one person, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to the people here. Has anybody heard of Judge Kenneth Kiyul Lee? K-I-Y-U-L, Kenneth K-Yul Lee. He's one of Trump's appointees. He's a federal judge. He's one of Trump's appointees to the Ninth Circuit Court. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. It was being called the Ninth Circus Court. It was a total wigged-out left-wing judicial court. He was appointed by Trump. I don't know how many are aware, but they recently, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, threw out the magazine ban in the California law. And this judge he's the one that wrote the majority opinion. Interesting story with this judge I think he's pushing 50 now. When he was 19 years old, how many in here have heard of the rooftop Koreans? Okay. For those of you that don't know, during this Rodney King riots, same kind of thing going on now, except it was in L.A., and it was over the Rodney King incident with the police there. There was a block or two of little one-story storefronts that were all owned and run by Koreans. Those Koreans got up on the roofs of their businesses armed and ready to fight, and none of their businesses got burned. Those are the rooftop Koreans. They're real American heroes. And this judge, this federal judge that President Trump just appointed, was one of those kids when he was 19 years old. These are the judges that our president is appointing. You got to vote. You got to get the vote out. We need a major right-wing landslide this year to save this country. And so do everything you can to get the vote out, unless they're Democrats, then let them stay home. Okay, I want to introduce, first off, this is Don Spencer. He's our president. You can address him as Mr. President. And this is Representative Sean Roberts. Sean is District 36, right? Yeah. Amen. Give him a hand. Sean's District 36, which he's out of Hominy. You're just the other side of Ken Luttrell's district, right? Yeah, okay. So he's a very close neighbor. Let me tell you, folks, this man is one of the major league heroes at the state legislature in Oklahoma. If you go to the legislature's page, there's a separate page for each legislator. You go to Sean's page, you go down to the bottom on the left-hand side, he's got a list of all the bills that he's either sponsored or co-sponsored. His list is like this, folks. Most of those legislators' list is like this. He's a real hero. He's absolute 1,000% pro-Second Amendment and pro-life. So this guy's doing the Lord's work down there. And I'm going to turn the meeting over to them, and I'm going to sit down and enjoy myself.
Well, I appreciate that very much. Before we bring Representative Roberts up here, we had a little event a couple weekends ago. Who managed to get to Fairview, Oklahoma?
Yeah.
See the video of it, anything like that? Yeah. We had a very good turnout on a very beautiful day. In fact, just like today. Oh, which, by the way, I mentioned earlier, we're going to have legislation so OU cannot interrupt our meetings. Yeah, that's just got to end. Okay, it's just so inconsiderate. No, I'm kidding, of course. But in Fairview, Oklahoma, we made a very important point to a town, and in fact, many across this state, that you just don't infringe upon the rights of the individuals, and there's just no excuse for it at any point. And I think we've got that point across them quite well, and and that they understand, because I would imagine right now if one of the city council or any law enforcement officer in that area were to make a mistake of some sort, we would be notified very quickly on that, and we would address it. I think they're very convinced of that. But we don't want to operate from fear. We want to operate from respect for the Constitution. And I do believe we've made that sound. I want to thank the sheriff there, Sheriff Reams. He was great to work with too. He spoke. Maybe who here got to hold a musket carried during the Revolutionary War? You guys should have been there. This is too close. You guys should. It's awesome to be able to hold that and to work with that. Also, we've got a lot of things going on right now. I always think that fall things will kind of slow down, but it's just amazing. Things just stay busier and busier. And I'm going to let Wayne in a little bit tell about the other new chapters that we've got coming on. We're going to be in LaFleur County when?
I think it's October 1st or 2nd.
See how many stuff we've got going. He can't even keep track of it in his head. That's a good thing. That's how much stuff we actually have growth and going on across this state to make sure we're continuing to move forward and protect Second Amendment, First Amendment rights, and the constitutional rights across this state. But like I say, before we can get too far involved in that, the introduction of Representative Roberts was great, but it's only just a small tip of the iceberg of what he actually does and takes care of. A lot of people, was that a question?
Yes, it was. Before you get to...
Sure. Oh, sure.
Can you explain the background of Fairview?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
I remember that.
Fairview, Oklahoma, of all days, Independence Day, there was a gentleman removed from the public park there because he was legally and peacefully carrying a concealed handgun. His jacket blew up. Someone saw it and made a complaint. He was escorted out, which was completely sad because he'd done nothing wrong. And then not only on top of that, he said, well, can I just leave my gun in the car and come back into the park? And they said no. Well, that's a violation of your First Amendment rights also. So, and it took an acknowledgement. OK2A, someone that was a member contacted, it was James Miller, our vice president, and said, hey, this is what's happened. So we check it out because you can't react to everything. And folks, we get a lot of people quite often are just stupid, and they think that OK2A is going to come run to their defense. Well, we're not going to run to your defense if you're stupid. That's just not going to happen. We're going to tell you, we're going to tell you, hey, you were stupid. And I have told people like that, and they don't like that. But like, if you're out in your front yard holding a beer in one hand and waving your pistol around, you're stupid. You're just asking for trouble, and you're on your own. Okay. So, and of course, this guy was not doing that. But so we want to make sure we send a positive message out, because I told the city of Fairview, we didn't ask if we could have a rally. We told them we're having a rally in that same park. And we don't do that very often. We're pretty humble how we go about and how we handle things. But when you cross a constitutional right, it has to be dealt with, and it has to be dealt with peacefully at first. And so we did every option to do that, because when I send an email and there's no response to a city council, and I send a second email and there's no response, then we hear back from their attorney, which gave a very poor response. So then we follow that up with certified letters, because we're not going to be ignored. If you think we're going to be ignored, ask the city of Norman. We're not. It's the same thing happened. At City Park, people were told they couldn't peacefully carry their guns in there, and we said that's not how it's going to work. So, and we don't want to go to a legal action. Folks, I've got a lot better things to have to do, and as many of you have known, we've taken care of legal action this year in the Oklahoma State Supreme Court, and we've won. It just takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of money, and the ones that want to come out and work against you get all this money just thrown at them, to go against your rights. So you got to know what battles to pick. And if we're going to go into battle, we're going to do a battle we know we can win. Otherwise, we'll figure out a way where we're going to win it. But one way or another, we're going to make sure we win it. So, saying all that, and say here in Oklahoma, we're fortunate because there's been over 30 cities, municipalities, counties that we've said, hey, you've got a policy that's in violation of state law. You need to come into compliance with state law. And we've gotten some interesting pushback. Rose, back there, we got, what was the state park? Osage Hills State Park tried to throw him a curveball and say, oh, we can do this. The only problem was they didn't read the next paragraph in the law. So I highlight the paragraph, send it back to them, show them whether they're in violation of state law, and we got a response back within 24 hours that it would be changed. Well, that's pretty consistent with what happens now. Pretty consistent. And in all fairness, there are so many laws. How can people keep this straight? I don't even expect law enforcement to keep too much straight. I expect law enforcement to simply say, you know what, I don't know, so we're going to give you the favor till we find out difference. And there's a really good example that took place in Ohio last week, and I forget the other state, but can you imagine going to your kids' football game and you're sitting 25 feet away from anybody else, and a 300-pound bully shows up to handcuff you, to take you out because you don't have a mask on? Can you imagine that? So, and in Oklahoma, there's some people that want to do this. And I say, we are not anti-cop, anti-law enforcement, but folks, that was stupid. That was beyond stupid. A mother peacefully sitting there, not bothering anyone. The worst thing she's doing is yelling for her kid out there, away from everybody, and she is arrested for trespassing because she didn't have a mask on. And tased. Yeah, and tased. In front of the other kids sitting right there.
That was a school call.
Yes. Well, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it said police across the back of his uniform. So that is one of the things we're looking at. State Representative Jay Stegall is looking at, where the state of Oklahoma, no public official, no public entity, no public municipality can require a person to wear a mask. To me, this is just a given. And then, on top of that, that was on public property. But on private church property in Idaho, people are arrested for singing because they don't have a mask on their face. And they're spread out across this private property yard. Man, if you want to see a civil war take place, Idaho's a good place for that to happen. That's a real easy place for that to happen. And so to stay ahead of these absolute socialist lunatics, folks, as much as I hate to say it, we got to have people like State Representative Roberts helping us put stuff in here to say, nope, it's obvious you can't do this, but we're going to make sure you can't do this. And even State Representative Dom has said that we're going to make sure that it's in preemption language, which means a municipality, a county, no one can preempt this. Now, I'll make it clear, if private property says you got to have a mask on before you can come on private property, that's their gig. We're not going to interfere with that. That's not for us to do, because they can make you wear a shirt, they can make you wear shoes, yes, they can make you wear a mask. If you don't like it, go business elsewhere. If you walk in there without a mask on, they won't let you. Just be polite and leave, and then do like everybody else, go out to your car, sit down, pull your phone out, and trash them on Facebook. Just start right there. Just start right there. That's how we can get the attention of some people on these types of things. So as far as also legislation we have going for next year, I may have mentioned this last meeting, but it's worth it again. We're going to do what we can to expand the castle doctrine from inside this very structure to where it goes all the way to the edge of your property, or a business property. I can't believe that these big cities, mostly, well, they are all operated by socialists practically, think that the thing to do is to make sure you take away or keep away private property rights. They think the thing to do is defund law enforcement. Like, folks, everyone has their hiccup with the law enforcement at some point or another, but you don't defund the whole thing. You go fix the problem. you go fix the problem. So it's just absolutely insane that, and it cracks me up, Norman, Oklahoma. That place, what a zoo that place is. But here it is. We got people moving from Colorado. Let's don't become like Colorado. Let's don't become like Denver. And we've said for all along, let's don't be like Virginia. There's some spots that's really to say, we're not going to do that. We're just not going to let that happen here. And the only way, and it's a great old saying, but when evil triumphs, when good men stand by and do nothing. And just watching that video of that mom at the football game, what those guys do around there? They just sat there and did nothing. And then the lady was even taunted as she was handcuffed and drug off.
People not wearing masks.
Yes, and you saw the cheerleaders didn't have masks on. This other second security officer comes up, didn't have a mask on. But we're going to make sure we take out a mom sitting there on the bench. And I'm really stunned at even our social media, the amount of people that will just bend and grab their ankles like sheep and say, well, you got to go by the rules. Well, the rules used to say you can't let a black person into that event. Was that right? No. It's just all kinds of things like that. She's carrying her Bible into a football game. Got to throw her out. Folks, this is where a lot of this stuff is going. It's just the insanity of it. And so we've got to continue to push back on it. Because like I said, if you don't push back, what are they going to do? Right. And I'm not talking, we have to do a big, huge physical pushback. Right now, we push back at the voting, at the ballot box. That's where you push back. And if you're not registered to vote, if you're not prepared to go vote and educated on what to vote, you're the problem. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or Independent or whatever else is out there. We have to be registered. And folks, ask your neighbor, ask your friends, are you registered to vote? Are you going to vote? You may not have to ask them specifically who for, but make sure that they're engaged. But that's the problem. And I've said this for years, and they've gotten very mad at me, but I've said it for years. Republicans are the problem. Heck, they got control of the United States Senate right now. I think they should be taking the nomination straight to the floor and not wait in committee, just cram it right back down their throats and say, we're in charge, we're going to run this thing. Instead of, well, let's see, we don't want to upset anybody. But let's hear it for election years, because even Romney come out and said, I think I can support this gal. Yeah, no kidding. Election years are great because you can get some things done and accomplished in that amount of time for sure. Okay, so what I want to do real quick. Now, one thing about Representative Sean Roberts, he had to get a bigger office because he had to have more room to put up OK2A awards there. This guy is not shy about liberty at all. And it's been great working with him through the years, because he's also in his final 2 years of in the legislature. And he's a lot of this stuff, people say, I hate the games. Well, you can hate the games, but you better know how to play it. You better know how it works, and you better know who the players are and what their weaknesses and strengths are, and because that is a part of it. Because I would agree with you 100%. I hate the games, but folks, that's the way it is. I look at this almost like it's a military operation. If you can't let the enemy know what's going on, because the enemy is real. They want to take your guns, they want to take your liberty, they want to take your speech, they want to force you to wear a mask if you don't want to, and all these types of things. So we've got to have people that are there ready and willing to go. I think I should have counted last time I was in his office. I think this is the 5th award, 5th or 6th. Also, this poor guy, constitutional carry, anybody ever heard of that? He's an author of it, co-author on the one that was vetoed. It's private property rights. We've fought all kinds of stuff. Pro-life, every direction possible that possibly something can move. He's willing to help make it move. He's the chair of the Health and Public Health Committee. And like I say, you don't get into this type of a leadership role unless you're doing something right and consistent again. So Representative Sean Roberts, you come up here just for a minute, sir. What I have here is the 2020 Representative Minuteman of the Year Award, which will go to Representative Sean Roberts. And it says, in highest recognition and appreciation to the legislator who was the most aggressive defender of the return of the God-given right to self-preservation by authoring and advancing legislation that reflects and supports the U.S. Constitution, and for the Oklahomans' Second Amendment rights to keep and bear arms, goes to State Representative Sean Roberts. Let's just move ahead. You want to say a few words, sir?
Okay.
He's actually kind of shy.
No, I'm not. I just want to thank everybody for coming today. It's really an honor, and I'm humbled to receive this recognition. It's great working with Don and OK2A. But really, I go up there and think, what would everybody in this room want to do? We believe the same. When I first was elected in 2010, one of my main goals was to get constitutional carry passed. It took a few years, didn't it, Don?
Yeah, something like that.
A few, but we got it done. So I have 2 years left. We're going to work on a couple more bills, several more. With COVID, what happened last year, I'm going to rerun municipal carry and teacher carry. So those two are still on the table. Moving forward, I haven't even talked to you about this. You brought it up about what happened with the people singing at the church. I actually called my assistant yesterday and told her, let's look into legislation to see what we can do on that front. I knew Stiegel was working on the mask issue. That should come to public health. It'll get a hearing, I guarantee it. Another issue, my first bill I'm going to file this year, plan on filing it very early. If you notice how the Thunder and all of NBA were taking a knee,
Right.
I came out very strongly against that.
Yep.
So they receive financial help from the state, tax credits. I'm going to look at stripping that away and sending that to the police. So hopefully we can send that money that is going to the Thunder to law enforcement. And so we're not going to defund the police, we're going to increase funding. So, once again, though, I am humbled and honored to accept this award, and look forward to working with Don and OK2A in the next 2 years. So thank you.
Okay, he could have went a lot longer than that. And especially if you give a microphone to a legislator, usually you're trying to put the brakes on him at some point. But I appreciate him looking at our time here. I'm going to turn it back over to Terry. And like I say, folks, this is what you're seeing right here today is the working relationship OK2A has with legislators. Who could not get behind this guy looking to see what we can do to protect private property, place of worship? Can you imagine law enforcement coming here right now and saying, you don't have a mask, you're going to jail? Because if they can do that, that means they can well then you're not allowing homosexuality in here, you're not allowing it, or you're not allowing all kinds of perversions to take place, and that they could, so it's got to be stopped with as simple as a mask, because we can't let them encroach upon it any farther. Terry, thank you.
Thank you, Don. As Don and Sean both mentioned, he's term limited out this 2-year term, but that's only in the House. There's the state Senate, there's the U.S. Senate.
He can't run in the Senate, but he can run for a statewide.
Oh, okay. Well, we have plenty of statewide offices that would be a major upgrade. I'd like to see Sean in Washington. So remember the name. What's that?
His wife would.
Remember the name, Sean, and he spells it the correct way, S-E-A-N, Roberts. Remember that name, folks. He's real important. Speaking of names, Don mentioned Senator Romney. Most people know him as Mitt. Everyone should be aware of his actual given name, which is Willard. No wonder he uses a nickname. I have been thinking it fits him so much better than Mitt. He is definitely a Willard. And God help me if there's a Willard attending the meeting today. Ed from Denver, Ed Kasser, has consented to speak with us again. What he did last month, and I'd like for him to, kind of give everyone here an update on what it's like living in the city. What's the population of Denver area now, the whole metro area?
About 5 million.
5 million people. That's more than we have in the entire state living in one town. Think of that, folks. Ed, I'd like to turn the meeting over to you.
I have to tell you guys, you don't know how fortunate you are to live in this state with representatives like this. You're here. Okay? Dead serious. Terry brought up earlier about the judge in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals that helped overturn the magazine law of the state of California. What people don't realize is that after that law was enacted, the state of California sent agents into Nevada to register any cars that parked at gun stores or gun shows. They would take the license plate numbers, list what they bought, radio it back to the agents on the other side of the California border, stop the individuals and arrest them on the spot. All right? That's through the state of California. 2 weeks ago, a mile and a half from my house, I had a BLM meeting. Does everybody know what BLM stands for?
Baby Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Do you know one of their precepts is, and this was taken down 4 days ago, by the way, to destroy the nuclear family.
Yep.
That's one of their precepts. They actually took it down 3 days ago. In Denver, the state of Colorado is an open carry state. Guess what? Depending on what municipality you walk through in Denver, if you have a weapon on you, you get arrested. Recently, and I believe it was the state of Minnesota, remember the couple in St. Louis that defended their property? All right, they're under indictment. I heard rumors that that was overshadowed by the state attorney general, but I'm not positive on that. But in Minnesota, I believe it was Minnesota the other day, and you have to understand the backstory. About 5 days before this incident occurred, the Antifa and Black Lives Matter crowd showed up at this one house. Shots were fired. They torched this individual's house. Literally burned it to the ground. So, having understood this guy was in his house. Black Lives Matter and Antifa showed up at his place. So he stood in front of his window as they were yelling obscenities at him, telling him they were going to burn the place down, and he racked a shotgun. Someone took a video of that. 3 days later, a police officer shows up, sent from the governor, and arrested him. He was in his own house. That state does have a castle doctrine, just like St. Louis does. Who you vote for or who you don't vote for is important. We have one of the biggest problems in Oregon. And I am from the state of Oregon, by the way. I was born in Newburgh, Oregon, which is just south of Portland. I've had 4 stores in the Portland area for many, many years. And I have to tell you, it breaks my heart what's happening there, where the DA is refusing to prosecute anybody arrested during the riots. He actually lets them loose. There's no consequences for your actions. The police are told to stand down. They're not allowed to stop the protesters from firebombing your house, your business, your friend's business. They don't even arrest the people when they throw Molotov cocktails at individuals, at the cops. We have a president right now that's electing judges left and right. He's got, I believe, over 230 so far that he's actually national or federal judges that he's actually put into office. This is his third pick. Understand what he's doing. He's trying to change the culture back. All too many of us, and myself included, I've always had I've kind of lived by this precept: your rights end right where my nose begins. You step beyond that point, and that's my property, my business, my family, then I'll be your best friend or I'll be your worst enemy, one of the two. We've all lived under that precept. I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life. I don't want to tell them how to vote. I don't want to tell them how to do anything. I'm not their judge. But you know, gentlemen, ladies, it's time for us really to stand up. They are taking control step by step because we've allowed them to. We've allowed them to take control of our educational system. This is my son. He never saw public school. We homeschooled him from the very beginning. My daughter, 10 years older than he is, we took out of the 8th grade. The reason we took her out of the 8th grade is because she brought home this book report on Macbeth. She'd gotten straight A's through school, and I was busy building my business, so I had no cares in the world at that point. She was real proud because she knew that this book report was on a book that I absolutely love. I read the book report, 3 pages long. There was not a complete sentence on the entire front page. 46 misspelled words. So I made an appointment with a teacher. What was the criteria you used to grade this paper? She got an A+ on it. She said comprehension. I looked at her and I go, what? How in the world could you comprehend what she's writing? There's not a complete, simple thought on the first page. So I made an appointment with the principal, and I went and talked to the principal. Said I wanted to start monitoring my daughter's classes unannounced. All right? I would be glad to aid any teacher in any aspect of that class while I was in there. We can't let you do that. Why? Well, we are required to give our teachers a 48-hour written notice that parents are going to be in the class. Really? Why? Well, we don't want you to misinterpret what we're teaching your kids. This is not a joke. This is in Seattle, Washington, by the way. All right? So I said, well, what are you going to teach my daughter that I, as an adult, will misinterpret? This guy looked at me and said, Mr. Castro, you have to understand, we're the ones educated here. You have to trust us. So I looked at him and I said, I have a degree in theology with a minor in both Hebrew and Greek languages, ancient. I speak 7 languages, 5 of them fluently. I have a degree in criminal law, I have a degree in psychology, and I have a degree in theology. So what are you going to teach my daughter that I, as an educated adult, are going to misunderstand? And I said, I want to see my daughter in this office in the next 5 minutes, and I want to see my daughter complete educational records in this office within that same time period. When he brought them in, I sat there and grabbed the records and said, okay, my daughter is now disenrolled in your school. See ya. He goes, those are our records. And I said, no, sir, they're not. They're my daughter's records. We went and had my daughter evaluated by a doctorate in childhood education. My daughter was at the 2nd and 3rd grade level across the board. She was in the 8th grade. So my wife and I, we started homeschooling her. We hired tutors. We put her through her paces, and in 2 years, she completed all high school curriculum and graduated from the 12th grade after 2 years of homeschooling from the 2nd grade level to the 12th grade level, and she scored very high on her SAT scores. Kids want to learn. Unfortunately, they're not teaching, they're indoctrinating. And it gets even worse in the higher education modes. And that is not a joke. Conservative teachers, you're talking about defunding people, school districts and stuff like that, we need to defund the universities. Period. All right? You need to defund them. Because my daughter is now 43 years old. She's a bloody genius. She taught herself how to do all the computer SEO. She built her website, and she does a fantastic job. All right? She taught herself how to do it. She wasn't going to take the classes. She goes, I can read this stuff. You guys are lucky here. You have a legislature that has overturned the red flag laws. The red flag laws in Denver, all it takes is for somebody to come see you with a weapon and they will complain. That gives them the precedent to come in and grab you, arrest you, and take your weapons. And by the way, when they do this, understand what they do is they'll send one or two and says, we have a complaint against you and we've got a warrant to search your property for weapons. You are by yourself with 2 armed officers in the house. Is everybody ready to fight inside their house? I doubt it seriously. You're all by yourself. They will get your weapons. It's not like they're going to give you any forward advancement or anything like that. They're going to catch you where you're flat-footed. And I'm not saying do anything stupid. Don't get in a gun battle with the cops. We have legal recourse. But pretty soon, if we don't stand up and start letting our feelings be known, we're not going to have that legal recourse. We still need to be measured in what we do. Don't be stupid. Don't be walking around with a beer in one hand and a weapon in another. That's stupid. Okay? There's enough idiots out there. We don't need any more. Now, any questions on what I've said? I'll be glad to answer anything that pertains to the last meeting or this meeting. I heard that there were some people that had questions the last meeting from me concerning what they can do if you get Domestic Violence Act. There is a national database. Your name will go on it. You will be refused to buy weapons after that happens. That is not a joke. And you don't have to even you don't even have to do anything to your wife. All you got to do is hit the wall, damage your picture frame. What happens, Justin?
Well, let's go into some backstory here with this one. A good close friend of mine, Christian, gets into an argument with his wife. Ends up breaking a picture. Cop walks in, decides to arrest him, gets a DV. He can't own a weapon now. I own all the weapons. If
All right.
he came and testified in court, he didn't hit me. We have arguments, but he's never hit me. I don't want him to have a DV. Doesn't matter, the state will prosecute me on that.
All right.
Looking for excuses, folks, is what this is about.
And what I want to tell you is don't give them one. Be smart. This is not the time for us to take up arms yet. Hopefully that won't come. All right? I don't want it to come. The reason we're buying a house here isn't to move here unless we have to. But if we move here, we're losing everything. We're losing the houses that we have in Denver. We're going to lose the businesses that we've spent many, many years building up. We'll leave everything and we'll come here for the protection of my family. Because our governor, our mayors, don't give a rat's rear end about us. They care about their own prestige. If you don't believe me, look at Hillary Clinton.
Do we have to?
Huh?
We have to look at.
I would prefer not to. I saw a picture in the dictionary the other day under the term ugly, and it was her. So, any questions on the stuff that we covered last month or this month? Terry dragged my butt here again this time, so.
Good job, Terry.
Any questions whatsoever? Yes, sir.
We can't get any ammo, or people hoarding it, or the government not making it?
Ammo's out there, you can buy it. What happens each area, there is if you guys don't realize that in the last 60 days, 15 million weapons have been sold in the last 60 days. 5 million of them were brand new gun owners. They've never been registered to buy weapons again before. That's a lot of weapons going out there.
A lot of people that don't know how to use it.
Yeah, that's true. All right? That is true. All right? But you think about that. On top of the weapon, we have now more than 2 weapons in the U.S. than every man, woman, and child in the U.S. You have people like Terry and me, we're ridiculous. But any others? But that's why. People are buying it off as soon as it gets in there.
Kobe Snyder posted just yesterday, I believe it was. Is it Winchester or Remington? There's a Winchester. They're back ordered 1 billion. That's 1,000 million. They're back ordered that many rounds of ammo at the factory. And same thing's going on with reloading supplies. I guess primarily primers.
Primers, right.
Because those are all going to the manufacturers for manufacturing. They're running full bore. It's just the demand.
They can't keep up with the demand.
In the last 2 days, I've seen it seems to be loosening just a little bit. I saw a couple of spots where you could buy 1,000-round cases of 223 or 5.56, but they were not quite double what they were 90 days ago.
And it's not just ammo. I went down to Cabela's a couple weeks ago to order 3 extra mags. All right? Took me 3 weeks to get them because they were back ordered.
If you want something and you find it, you better buy it then. You go back 5 or 10 minutes later, it probably will be gone, very likely.
Terry, let me make a point on that
Yes.
too. You guys remember back 2016, this guy named Trump gets elected and everyone just kind of, everything's okay now, no problems, not anything to worry about. And look what happens when you've got a guy that's probably fighting for us across the board harder than anyone we've ever seen. Look what is transpiring inside this country. So don't think you can just sit back on your laurels and look, because I've got people that have called me, hey, you got any guns for sale? No. You got any ammo for sale? No. And I've actually, folks, I haven't slowed down even going out and shooting it because I want to make sure I'm holding on to what I've got, because target rounds is better than no rounds at all. So keep that in mind. This is why it is so important to make sure we get people in even at the local level. OK2A is going to also work to make sure we're going to give surveys so we can help identify good district attorneys, so we don't have things like in St. Louis, we've got to shut them down, because Oklahoma has been notoriously terrible about prosecuting people that were doing no more than defending themselves even inside their own home or business. So it matters a lot. So again, folks, you don't have to be a prepper to see. You got to be a little bit prepared here. So yes,
He knows that pharmacist is still in jail.
yes, he'll be for the rest of his life.
When do you have, just take a look at that.
I can't remember what the deal is, but it's the way the pardon parole board is set up. That's why the governor cannot pardon him. Something along that line. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, I'm sorry, didn't mean to take away there, but okay, right there.
And having said that,
We need to look at that.
another thing too, please understand, be careful. Don't just vote down straight R Republican. All right? There's an idiot that got elected just the other day who's an avowed Satanist who registered as Republican. Guess who's now in office? He's an avowed Satanist, an anarchist, and a few other things.
And the training.
And a tranny. That is true. So if you got, I got to tell you, remember?
Like our ex-first lady. Put that in quotes.
So understand, please don't, do 5 minutes worth of research on each one of the candidates you vote for. Let's be smart. Let's be honest with each other, okay? Because they're going to play the games, all right? Someone just said, showed me a little advertisement BLM put out, what to dress like for the 4th.
Wear MAGA hats. Wear face coverings so they don't know who you are, and create havoc within their own ranks. Anyway, God bless you all. You have a great day.
I think y'all can see why I wanted Ed to address us. This is what's going on out there in the big world, folks. We are so blessed to be here where we're safe. In Oklahoma, number one, and in rural Oklahoma, number two. BLM, I thought that stood for burn, loot, and murder.
Well, same thing.
Or belt loops matter. Did you see that one? Yeah. Well, I want to mention one thing. This virtual learning is becoming a really big thing all over the country. I'm sure a lot of you heard about the kid who the police were sent to his house because he picked up a toy gun while he was in a virtual classroom in his bedroom. What I think's coming, folks, what's the law about having guns in schools? Verboten. You can't do it. They move these classrooms into your home. I can see jurisdictions where they would come to the home and seize weapons and possibly charge you criminally for having a weapon in a school. So, of course, those of you that know me know that I'm about half paranoid. The only thing is, it's not really paranoia if they're really out to get you. So I saw that, and that's the first thing I thought of. So if this does happen, you'll hear me up here saying, see, I told you so. I'd like to ask Wayne to come up and speak for a few minutes and perhaps introduce some of the other coordinators we have here.
So first of all, I'm Wayne Hill. I set up chapters across the state, and we have 23 chapters now. We started out with 3 or 4 as of last year, and so we're really growing. And I want to thank certain people for stepping up to the plate and taking on chapters. First of all, Terry, you guys are fortunate here. Terry works so hard throughout the month to make sure you guys have a good meeting, and you can see the result of that right here.
Great
and
job,
so
Terry.
I just want to say thank you, Terry. And we have Jana and John here, and right here, stand up, Jana, John Bolser. There are Pawnee coordinators. Jana really is the coordinator, and her husband, John, helps her out, but he did a reloading talk last time, very informative, so he helps her out a lot. John Maples, where are you? John, he and his wife are here. Stand up, John. He's our Osage County. He lives in Bartlesville, Washington County, but he drives all the way to Skytook in order to conduct meetings. And both of these individuals have done a great job, and I want to thank them both. So we are growing. If you have any other counties that you know of that would like to start a chapter, I look for freedom, liberty-loving people who are motivated and are organized. And I'd love to sit down with them and talk to them about what it entails to be a chapter coordinator. I want to switch gears here real quick, and Sean Roberts will probably be interested in this as well. We started a new initiative, and that's where OK2A and U.S. Law Shield actually partner with local sheriffs. If anything happens, these sheriffs, especially, I live in Osage County. Osage County is huge, as you all know. You guys butt up against it. And they have, I believe, Sheriff Verdon has 5 to 7 deputy sheriffs on his staff. It takes a long time to get across that county. So if you're in one of the remote areas in Osage County, it's going to take them a while to get there. So we've started 2 initiatives with the sheriffs. And right now the curriculum is being written, and we should have a date by Friday of the first Citizens Defense Academy. That's one academy. And so what that entails is we will bring in citizens, and we will teach them the law. U.S. Law Shield is going to have their main lawyer out of Oklahoma City who actually writes the law, Robert Robles, is that? Robles. He's going to come in and actually conduct the legal aspect of the class. And then we're going to, the sheriff is going to orient people to Osage County. Washington, oh, by the way, Washington County is partnering with him in this. So it'd be Sheriff Owen and Sheriff Verdon. And then we'll have range day. We'll teach individuals how to shoot, how defensive techniques, etc. It's for beginners and also experienced shooters. Then there's going to be another academy, it's called the Reserve Academy. And that's going to be an academy that actually, if the sheriff is in short supply as far as manpower, there's people he is actually trained and also that he can trust to come and assist him. Could be a natural disaster, could be looking for a missing child, it could be civil disobedience. I mean, a variety of things. But that will be CLEAT certified, and we want to start that across Oklahoma. We have other counties that are interested in doing that. I've talked to sheriffs in Wagner, Creek, Rogers, LaFleur, several other counties, and they're very interested in replicating what we're doing in Osage County and Washington County. So anyway, look for that because that is growing. We want to expand that, and I think that's about it.
Thank you very much. The person working hardest in these chapters is Wayne, because he's covering lots of bases and he's putting new bases out there all the time. When did K County get signed up? When did we get started?
You were one of the first, Terry.
I think we were third, weren't we?
Yeah, something like
that. But like I said, if you've got any friends or family in any of these other counties, please talk to them. Because let me tell you, folks, I'll be 73 on Election Day. Guess what I want for my birthday? This is the most important thing I've ever been involved with in my life. And it's really gratifying because of Don, stuff happens. When I retired and moved to Talk, I got involved in a bunch of different clubs and groups, and I've dropped out of most of them because most of them are a complete waste of time. With OK2A, your time is well spent. The stuff gets done down there in the legislature. And we've got a big agenda lined up for this next year, and we need everyone's support, help, and also, I'm open, everybody that doesn't have one of my cards, there's some on the table back there. I'm always open for suggestions, complaints, comments, whatever, because I want this to work for everybody. The mayor of Newkirk is kind of my co-pilot here. He's coming to every meeting, bless his heart. Mr. Brian Hobbs. Brian, I'd like for you to come up and address the folks for a bit. Yeah. Brian, let me tell you, those that don't know him, Brian and I have become almost brothers here. He is hardcore conservative, right-wing, pro Second Amendment and constitutionalist. And this is he's the rising star of the Republican Party here in K County. So it's a good name to remember.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, that was generous. I'm sitting here, I was going to cover a couple of questions. First of all, you had a question. I wanted to make sure you got heard.
Well, wasn't so much a question, but more of a comment. Why is legal once told me, he says, the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution read like the 10 Commandments. Well, actually, the first 9. Government, thou shalt not, and so on and so forth, until they get to 10. 10 says, oh, if we forgot something, you can't do that either.
That's true. That's right.
And I thought I'd throw that out and let folks ponder on it. As sovereign citizens of Oklahoma, we need to understand this, and we need to understand our situation.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, my son's here today too. I think you've already met him, Sean, Terry probably as well. But I was going to get back to, we pulled our kids out of school years ago as well. And we live in a pretty good area. I mean, we're not near as liberal as some other states are, obviously. But, it's, until we get control of our educational system, we're going to continue to have these problems. I mean, we have to be intellectually honest with ourselves. And that's not bashing teachers, that's not bashing faculty. At some point, we got infiltrated. Our churches have been infiltrated, our schools have been infiltrated, and people sat back on their haunches and allowed it to happen. And those are the facts. I mean, does that make any one individual a bad person? No. But we need to be cognizant of that. We need to be aware, and we need to start taking some actions in those regards, because we cannot, what was it, Einstein that said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different result. And until we start doing something about it and getting organized, we're going to keep turning out communists out of our school systems. And again, that's not an attack on a teacher or anything else. They've got a tall task to deal with, being in that position, because they're force-fed their curriculum. So we really need to, in my opinion, get involved in that. And somebody said earlier about defunding higher ed. Who was it? Yeah, okay. And I've been trying to prod this guy over here into defunding higher ed for months now. So I appreciate that too, because, we've got enough problems. We're running into a giant budget shortfall this year. Why are they getting hundreds of millions of your tax dollars? I mean, why is it my job to subsidize somebody else who wants to go to college? My son's a welder, and he makes pretty good money. He didn't go to college and get a useless degree. Why is he forced to turn around and subsidize somebody else who wants to go to college? This is insane.
The cost would go down.
Right, exactly. So they can keep ever expanding their campuses, and we all just sit back and watch it because we love to watch OU football on Saturday. And I've been just as guilty as anybody. So, or OSU or whatever.
That's football, that's different.
Yeah, no, you're paying for that too. These are some of the core problems that we've got to understand, and we've got to agree upon, and then at some level decide how we're going to attack it. Now, I know this is not Second Amendment related, but I think to me it all dovetails together. Because the Second Amendment is the amendment by which all others are defended. And so, I'm one of those crazy people that thinks, if the military has it, I should be able to have it too. But anyway, I'm trying to think if there's probably a couple other things that I'm missing. And I want to give a shout out. I can't say enough about Sean. He's the real deal. I know a handful of guys that I would put up here, and he's one of them. Senator Dom is another one. But if I had to rate him, I'd put him at the top, and that's because I know him personally, and talk about a fight. I wish we could give him another decade up there, honestly. I love term limits, except for guys like him, because we need more of them, and to be honest, we just don't have enough. But it's up to us to light a fire under the tail ends of our elected officials. Go ahead.
Ryan mentioned Senator Dom. I saw him a couple of nights ago, and he wants to participate as a trainee in the Osage County and Washington County.
Yeah, that is his area. Good.
He's the real deal.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I see him in DC or state.
Oh, I agree, and we're trying to prod him into that too. So,
the King County Sheriff started that citizens bill right before in March. They shut it down when COVID hit. I don't know if they started it back up again, but they're doing one. I asked if I could start it, and they said,
yes. Well, and
we don't know if we're going to start it again, or who we are, or what. King County started one, and then I don't know.
They're still doing it.
They still going to?
Yeah, they still. I'm sure they will. I'm sure there's been some postponement due to COVID, with everything else. But I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a sheriff that I really like as well, Chris West. Do you remember what county is he? This guy is great. I can't say enough about this sheriff. I wish we had 77 or 76 more of that guy. He's formed a posse, so that if there's civil unrest, hey guys, I need you down here. Why is this not happening everywhere?
Amen.
We aren't alone. We're just guys sitting in the room right now. There's dozens to replace each and every one of us sitting here probably. So why not? Why are we allowing these things to burn and whatnot? And thankfully, we're in Oklahoma to where it's not going to get out of hand.
These things aren't happening is because it does not fit the law enforcement agenda.
How so? I don't.
Well, in the early 1950s, my father, Max Countryman, Jess Lee, Sid Countryman, or Sid Kirkley, sit down, formed the Ponca City Auxiliary Police, wrote Cleat, and I was privy to all of this. So, and up until they politicized it in the late 70s, it did wonders. It did exactly what you said it would do. It provided a reserve that were trained, and, you know, they wrote the training schedules and virtually wrote Cleat. And as a matter of fact, sold it to Cleat. They sold it as Cleat to the state back in the late 50s.
Interesting.
So I know a little bit about this. And right now, the Ponca City Police Reserve or Auxiliary Police is virtually non-existent. They've got maybe one, maybe two members. The police chief doesn't really want to deal with it. In my conversation with Steve, he has a police or a sheriff reserve, which was formed along the same lines considerably after.
Yeah. There's still a sheriff's reserve.
He don't really want to fool with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think that's,
why it ain't happening.
as things escalate, I think that's a decision they're probably going to regret. But anyway, does anybody have any questions or comments or, yeah, go ahead. Hi.
I have two. One, is sometimes I think we're looking over one of the best resources we have, like in the academy or just as individuals. When individuals are out of jail and stuff and they finish the paper and everything, they can vote. Maybe we could have a SPARK president and representative to let them have the privilege of having a gun because they can't have one to protect their family. Or if something should happen and we need other resources than what we have, they could help us. I believe that individuals that have come out of prison and shown that they're not in trouble anymore, they have the pleasures of these things in their heart because they're usually us, we're older. And I think that would be something to look into and have that, because that would be a resource that
You want to field this
May
one?
I?
Yeah, go ahead. How about it? Ladies and gentlemen.
I know just a little bit about this. You're absolutely right. Once a person has served, we've even looked at, even if it's a 10-year, from the 10 years from the time that they were released, that they've had a clean record, everything is restored. But let me tell you what we've run into. Just for that same person, if the preacher right here, and you say he carries a gun, he goes and drives a church bus, and he goes around picking up school people, and he picks up a person that is a felon, who's previously had a felony, who needs to be in church. And if that person gets in a vehicle with that pastor, and that pastor has a gun, the felon goes back to jail for 10 years. And just to change that, we've been working on for 4 years, just to change that. And you know who stops it? Republicans. The Republicans stop it. So we're going to continue to push. This next year, we're going to introduce a bill that's going to be along the lines as, okay, so the person that's driving the car, if they have a valid SDA license, can a felon ride with them? And we're going to try to make that yes. So at least it's a starting point that the person operating the vehicle is not a felon. They've been a background check. So anyone that's riding in there with them should be clear. And then we're going to work to do the same thing for inside the home. That if a person inside the home has a valid SDA license, a felon should be allowed to live there.
Now, we're married, and would that be infringing on my Second Amendment right to have a firearm? And I'm not able to.
That's what I was going to say. I got in trouble, I'm in all kind of violation right now. I got in trouble.
No, you're not in a violation right now.
I mean, I got in trouble 30 years ago, 1990.
Right.
For some drugs. But I've not had nothing since
Right.
then. I've been on paper
Right.
for over 15 years.
May I address this for you, sir? your constitutional rights have been violated since 1907 in this state. The carry of a pistol, rifle, or shotgun on or about your person was violated as the first gun law in Oklahoma. Oklahoma does not give a rat's rectum about your rights. And that's why it's been so important that we've tried to go back and make sure that we change our own state constitution, so at least we have some leverage here. Because right now, folks, there was 10 cases in front of the United States Supreme Court having to do with Second Amendment rights, and not a one of them got heard. So basically, currently, right now, the U.S. Supreme Court is deaf on gun rights. So,
Me personally, I don't care if I carry one or not.
right,
I'm pretty good with my hands.
right.
You know. But they tell her that she can't.
Correct. No, it's complete abuse. Now, OK2A, we have already worked for 10 years. We've got you 9 felonies repealed for the peaceful ownership and possession of a firearm. This is on the list, and we consider this one of the last 2 we need to fix. And like I said, we just keep chiseling away, and you know, and you may have a legislator that, well, I've got a sheriff in my county that doesn't like that. Well, then they freeze. Instead of going back to the U.S. Constitution that they swore an oath to, they're swearing an oath to a sheriff that's not holding up to his oath that he swore an oath to. Okay, I mean, that's the pattern we're following here. I agree there is absolutely no reason. So what we did do, I guess I'm going to put this cat out of the bag. You ready? We also, right now, because of language, in fact, Representative Roberts helped work on that just 3 or 4 years ago. We took out the word bow and arrow in one section. You can have a bow and arrow or a crossbow now for self-defense. You can hunt with it legally now, when you couldn't have 4 years ago. That's one thing. In Senate Bill 24 of last year, when it went into effect last year, you can now legally purchase, own, and have and carry a black powder firearm or an antique firearm.
They told me I couldn't have it.
Who's they? I don't care who they is.
I'll talk to the district.
Oh, okay. I correct district attorneys all the time. I correct people all the time. I don't give a rat. You can tell me whatever you want. It don't matter. I'm telling you what the deal is.
He told me you can't carry the pellet gun. I said, so I can't piss nobody off.
He's absolutely correct. You cannot carry a pellet gun because that's specifically listed. I'm talking real firearms. Yeah. Okay, so we're getting you back, sir. You can go today, you can order online, get you a black powder kit, and you can do that. Now, here's the other thing. And the law is before 1898 in the antique firearm. If you can come up with a shotgun that was manufactured before 1898, and they're out there and they work, you can legally have that. Because we got that law changed of November 1st last year. So you've got some squeaky points to get in there. Now, here's the new problem. The new problem is the DA doesn't know this. Law enforcement doesn't know this. So if you even think about getting one of these firearms I've listed, you better join U.S. Law Shield first. You both better have it, because that's going to hoot, because otherwise you'll be back in prison and you'll be back in debt beyond belief. And when a simple attorney can make one phone call, here's the law, you guys need to leave my guy alone, and it can go away that fast.
And I don't think there's a U.S. Law Shield representative here.
No, but
I do have some applications for U.S. Law Shield out in my car.
Right, folks, if you're not a member of U.S., you don't even have to have a firearm. You can defend yourself if you pick up a wrench, a crowbar, chair, whatever you got to defend your hands. U.S. Law Shield will defend you. So if you go that route, and like I say, this is so new in Oklahoma, law enforcement does not know this. So they're going to say, oh, you've got a felony and you've got a gun, you're going to get arrested, because they just don't know that this has transpired taking place. But I'm just telling you what your rights are, and currently, and the right is, you can have one of what I have described, but you cannot have a firearm that basically has been sold since 1899 and has a serial number on it. And don't even think about getting a homemade kit to do the same thing. It needs to be what I've described. So at least we've done that much for you. It ain't much. But you guys know, we've been around, we incrementalize. You can't, I would love to just go in and just write 1 or 2 or 3 bills and just clean all this crap up. But you know what? The only thing stopping is Republicans. And so, but we've got to make sure, and it also, in fact, while I'm on this, you guys don't mind for a second. Republicans, I've said, are the problem, and we want to make sure there's a Republican that does not get back in office again. As House District 93, his name is Mike Christian. He was an F rating with OK2A, and he's running for office again. Leave the Democrat in the office. By far, folks, it's better off telling me. You're better off with a Democrat because you know exactly what you got, as opposed to a Republican that's going to screw you over again and again and again, and Mike Christian has done exactly that. So we're here telling people, I can't vote for a Republican. Well, you may have to vote for the Democrat to make sure, because the Republican's a fake. He's not doing you or me any good. And he was the chair of the Public Safety Committee, and he completely screwed you over, folks. South Tulsa, or South Oklahoma City. So, but this is what we're going to tell you who the good ones are, right? We're going to tell you the good ones. We're going to tell you the bad ones are too. And so, we had people even last year. Our strategy, because folks, you don't understand. If you don't understand, is that you may have 7 members on a committee. If you've got 2 Republicans that are weak, so you've got 2 Democrats and 5 Republicans. But if you've got 2 Republicans that are weak and they vote with the Democrats, now you're down 3 to 4. You're better off because we have a supermajority in the House and the Senate. You're better off making sure you get someone that is actually who they are. You know, even if they're saying, I'm a Democrat, I'm going to take your guns, at least you know who they are. But you got Republicans that will do the same thing, or they'll act like it's not, but then they'll just try to do that from behind closed doors. So that's the other warning. So I didn't mean to get back up on the soapbox, but you know, soapbox pretty convenient sometimes. Okay.
Good at it.
Yeah, Terry, you want to close her out there?
He mentioned the castle doctrine. As he said, right now it ends at the threshold of your front door. That means if somebody breaks into your house, you can use deadly force against them. Somebody running across your front yard with a flaming Molotov cocktail, you can't do anything legally until they throw it at you. Yes?
No, go ahead, John. After you finish that statement on one.
What we want to do is move that from the threshold of your front door, as he mentioned, to the edge of your property. Think how much more secure you'll be in your home with the castle doctrine at the edge of your property. Yes?
See the good information you got today? You got some great information today. So that's why attending these meetings are so important, because whenever the new legislature begins, Terry will come before you and say, these are all the bills that OK2A is pushing to change, to win our liberties back. He's also, this man right there over here will scrutinize 3,000 bills that are going to be introduced. He'll make sure there's no anti-gun, anti-liberty language in it, and you'll receive that information from Terry whenever you come to this meeting. That's why it's important to attend these meetings. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If you want to protect your liberty, OK2A is doing it.
Yes, Mike.
Can we get a list before election day on who to and who not to vote for?
Yes.
And not only people, but
Judges.
Judges.
I'm working on the list of judges. We depend on another group that is a Judicial Watch group, and we're going to get that posted. So don't mail in your ballot yet. Don't wait till we get that. There is one that I think is the appointee of Kevin Stitt, Governor Stitt, that we want to keep, but it sounds like we're going to just flush the toilet on the rest of them. Literally flush that toilet. So, but I don't want to knock one good one out in the whole bunch. So just hang in there. But folks, my natural inclination, no. Supreme Court judge, but that's mine, right? Because you know,
That's what I do.
That's the way. That's pretty natural. You had a question there?
Will this be on the website?
Yes. It's if you're on Facebook, we get the information on there faster. But yes, it will eventually be on the website, and I'm hoping to have it as soon as next week on that. So
Emails are what I see.
emails, we'll get them out on emails too. Oh, okay.
I see on Facebook, emails, I know I'm getting your information.
Okay, good. That's good. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Just so everyone's aware, in the last month, I've spoken face-to-face with with Chief Bohan here in Ponca City, with Steve Kelly, our sheriff, and with the chief of police in Tahlequah, Oklahoma. I ask all of them, what can you do if a bus pulls in with 50 Antifa BLMers on it with Molotov cocktails and skateboards and bats, and they pile off the bus and start rioting? All three of them told me they could not handle it, folks. This is our local law enforcement. They can't handle it. They all said they would call for help. I asked, who would you call for help? The state police. Well, I know for a fact the state police are all shorthanded, and a lot of them are retiring. You have a son-in-law? Have you heard the same thing? So you call for help, and calling is one thing, getting help is another matter. And then one of them told me, well, then I would call out the reserves and the National Guard. So I said, I didn't realize you had to, well, no, I would call the governor and he would do it. That's fine, folks. How long do you think it's going to take them to get deployed and on the streets and ready to defend? We're talking, I'll bet we'd be fortunate if we could do it in 48 hours. How much damage can these people do in 48 hours? So just FYI, everyone needs to, bottom line is you're the protection for yourself, your home, and your family. But be smart about it. That's important. Be smart about it. Yeah. Heard some talk about education. I'm old enough to remember when teachers were teachers. When they became educators, they seemed to become bureaucrats rather than teachers. The federal money in higher education, that's why it costs, what, $400,000 to send a kid to Harvard or Yale now. They got teachers making six figures, teaching 3 hours a week classes. It's just a bureaucracy, and there are people here in this group that I know that better than I do. Okay, anybody got any other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
About schools.
Yeah.
What's changed all the different forms of education that the teachers teach now is curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay? They're not really looking into that to see what that actually is and what the end result can be. Whatever happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic?
I moved back to Tahlequah from New Mexico, and New Mexico is where I've spent most of the years of my 73. In New Mexico, it is against state law, statute, for a third grade teacher to not pass a student to the fourth grade just because they can't read or write. They're sending kids from the third grade to the fourth grade that are completely illiterate, and that's a state law. The teacher is not allowed to do it. So that's that's New Mexico, and it's a complete mess there. The first two cities Trump sent federal law enforcement to were Chicago and Albuquerque. Albuquerque's where I lived. I'm about to break my arm, pat myself on the back that I got out of there. 3 years, I saw this coming. How long have I been talking about it, sis? Yeah. So, okay, again, thank you so much for coming. Our next meeting is October 24th. Oh, and I've invited Representative John Pfeiffer and Representative Ken Luttrell. I'm waiting to get a reply back. So either they'll be here, I'm going to find out this week, I'm going to get either a yes or no out of them. If not, I'll have another program put together. So, but we'll have something informative and hopefully a little bit entertaining. And again, I want to thank Don for coming up again, and Sean, thank you not only for coming to the meeting, but for everything you do in this down there. You are, as I said, he's a real hero, folks. Remember his name. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Well, next meeting, I think, was the meeting before last. I'd asked if people would be interested in some prepping information. I'm going to try to get that together for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
So maybe we can go over some of that. And also, last Saturday, noon here of the month, every month, in case you don't already know, and as
fourth Saturday.
Yeah.
Fourth Saturday.
Fourth Saturday.
Yeah.
As Terry pointed out to me the other night, and this guy's out here pitching OK2A meeting at the K County Republican.
I pitch it everywhere I go.
So he pointed out that if you're interested, I know most of the people in the room are probably Republican, which if you're not, that's fine too. But the Republican meeting is the Thursday preceding
the
this
fourth
meeting.
Thursday.
So the fourth Thursday. So if you can make it to that, we'd love to have you there too. Terry and I are fairly active in that as well. We'd love to get you guys out there.
Thursday.
Is that a Pioneer Church?
It used to be. It used to be. It's now being held at
First Lutheran Church, 4th and Liberty, and it's in the old chapel building there. Yeah, because if we can carry firearms to the Lutheran Church. If you get on 4th Street and go north, it makes a little jog there at Liberty. It's the building you'd run right into the front door of.
You know where the Lutheran school is? Is anybody that's interested? It's right by the Lutheran school over there, the little private school, and there's an old church, beautiful old stone building. And usually there's a sign out there that says, what is it? KCRP.
Yeah.
K County Republican Party. So here let's let he's one of our.
I'll tell you, the reason that got moved from the VOTEC was Don Spencer, because he came up for a meeting.
Yes.
And made an issue of it. And,
that's right, I've forgotten.
Yeah.
I quit going to meetings, and I used to be the county.
That was the first meeting we had
I
of
quit going to
the
meetings just because I didn't want to go to VOTEC. But Don got it changed, actually. He raised the issue, and, well, they listened to him. Real quick.
They didn't listen, but they're going to, because I made multiple requests to the, is it the president of the VOTEC, the superintendent, whatever it is, multiple requests, and I was told, oh, we'll have an officer there. I said, officer doesn't guarantee my safety. And he said, well, we'll make sure there's one there. I said, so are you going to guarantee my safety? Well, no, we can't do that. I said, well, then let me carry, because I have every cleat certification that I can be there with. Well, no, we just don't. And this was a VOTEC. I had already, folks, had written permission to be on the University of Oklahoma, the first person ever, non-commissioned officer, to legally carry there. But no, you can't carry at a VOTEC in Ponca City, Oklahoma. You can't be trusted. We're gonna shove that back down their throat and break it off.
Those of you that aren't members, I cannot emphasize how important it is to help us fight these fights. And the way you do that is join and support us. Our membership levels start at $25 a year. That's less than 50 cents a week, folks. And the money goes to make things happen. All of us coordinators, we're volunteers. We're not making any money on this deal. This money, every penny of it, goes to make laws happen. We not only pass good ones, but we're instrumental in killing bad ones, which is at least as important as getting the good ones. But back at the table back there, Shelley and Peter would be glad to sign you up. We're glad to take more money than that. We also, what we love are recurring memberships, where you $5 a month, $10 a month, automatically billed to your credit card. You don't even notice it. But the money's doing the Lord's work here in Oklahoma. We're hanging on by our fingernails all over the country. And we've got to have not only the right politicians in office, but we've got to support them. And this is one way you can do it. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody else got any other comments? Last chance?
Before we start talking, and everybody, I want to get a picture up here with